Holy moly, just have a look at this. It's the brand new Honor Magic V2, and in fact, it's one of just a handful of early pre-release devices in the world right now. So a big thank you to Honor for giving us early access to this and also partnering with me on this video. So this is not a review, it's also running pre-release software, and there are limitations on what I can actually show you right now, but still, this is one of the most exciting foldables I've used ever, really. Mainly because I feel like it's the first time I can actually use this like a regular phone. It's lighter than an iPhone 14 Pro Max, it's roughly half the thickness of a Galaxy Fold 4, and yet they squeezed in a whopping 5,000 mAh battery in here, which I believe is the biggest battery in any folding phone. I mean, look at that. It's just 9.9 millimeters thick closed or 4.7 open. It also has the most subtle crease I think I've ever seen on a folding phone like this. And of course, it folds completely flat. You can barely get your fingernail in there. We have a 90% screen-to-body ratio for both the tablet screen and the external cover screen, 5 cameras in total with a triple camera setup on the back, so it does borrow some of the camera features from the flagship Magic 5 Pro in here, which we'll talk more about in a second, and the flagship specs continue on the inside because this is powered by the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2, but not just any Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. Qualcomm have decided to drop the naming conventions of an 8 Plus Gen 2, which we normally see during this midlife refresh. In fact, it is just still called an 8 Gen 2. But this is using that midlife refreshed updated version of the 8 Gen 2. I can't run any tests or benchmarks on this just at the moment, but I would presume it will be a little bit faster. And that's combined with 12 gigabytes of RAM and either 256, 512, or 1 terabyte of storage. It also boasts a new ultra-thin bionic cooling system, as they call it, because traditional vapor chamber coolers are just too thick and too heavy for this kind of form factor. So hopefully that will keep everything nice and cool even during longer gaming sessions. And both screens, inside and out, have a 120Hz refresh rate and LTPO panels, so it's a little bit more efficient for the battery. And also, like this guy, the Honor 90, which I made a video on just last week, the V2 also comes equipped with a 3840Hz pulse width modulation, or PWM dimming, which can help reduce eye strain, particularly at lower brightnesses. And you can see here, if I set my camera to a very high shutter speed next to, say, the latest iPhone, you can see the difference in flickering. And so that higher frequency on the Honor is better for your eyes. Both screens also support Honor's stylus pen, so you can doodle and draw with much more precision, although I don't currently have a pen to test it, and we do also get HDR10 Plus and IMAX Enhanced support. I think the most important thing, for me at least, is the fact that this is the first time I've used a foldable phone and it's felt as comfortable to use as a regular slate phone. I can also see how my ND filter is messing up the colors on the screen there. But it's true, the size, the weight, the thinness of it, and also crucially, this aspect ratio. It's 20:9, which is basically the same as any other smartphone. So you absolutely could just use the external cover screen all day long if you wanted to, but then of course, can I do this one-handed? Yes, I can. You can flip it open to reveal that tablet screen as well. So it's kind of finally like the best of both worlds, which is what foldables should be. I will admit it's kind of hard to show this without doing a full teardown on the device, which I think given there's only a handful of these right now, Honor would probably prefer I didn't do, but they've drastically reduced the number of components used internally by 70%, so there's more room for this dual cell battery, and also it's allowed them to make the whole thing even thinner. They've also used a combination of titanium and their proprietary steel for the hinge to make it both light and durable, and in fact, it's 150% stronger and 27% slimmer than last year's Magic VS. And even with that, they've had this SGS certified to 400,000 folds, plus we also have a new second generation nanocrystal glass for the screens, which is 30% more drop resistant, and also has an SGS 5-star drop resistance rating. Also, listen to this. Wait for it. Isn't that really satisfying? Oh, it's lovely. It's lovely. But what I think Honor are most proud of is the battery in this. As I say, it's a 5,000 mAh cell, which is huge compared to the competition. For example, the Galaxy Fold 4 has a 4,400 mAh cell. The Huawei Mate XS3, I believe, has a 4,900. bigger than both of those, but it's not just about that. Honor are using a pioneering new battery technology, which uses a silicon carbon chemical structure for the battery, which we haven't really seen before in phones like this. They still use graphite as the base for its high conductivity and stability, but then they've created a composite with silicon, which has much higher capacities than traditional graphite anode batteries. I mean, for batteries, it's all about being as efficient and dense as possible because you've got such a small, area to work with. So it's kind of like, I don't know, imagine you're stacking your phones like this, it's taking up quite a lot of room. Well, what if you brought in something with more layers? So you could actually put your phones in here like so, and then you could build it all the way to the back. It's not an exact representation of what's happening, but it basically means you can fit a whole lot more in a similar overall space. Kind of. I should never be a science teacher. Now, obviously, with pre-release hardware and software, I can't properly test the battery just yet. But on paper at least, this is shaping up to be one of the longest lasting foldables ever. And finally, the Honor Magic V2 ships with Android 13 and also their latest Magic OS 7.2 software on top. But so far for me, even though this is pre-release software, it's all been running nice and smoothly. I do quite like Magic OS. But there is a problem with this phone, and I've left it till last, and it's not the price, because even though this is going to be quite expensive, I don't actually have final pricing. I can tell you the current Honor Magic VS in the UK is around £1,400, which actually, given the Pixel Fold and the Galaxy Fold, is a pretty reasonable price for a Fold like this with this kind of hardware. The main problem, and you can probably guess where I'm going with this, is it's not currently launching outside of China. This, on July 12th, will be launching in China. As for the rest of the world, we don't know yet. They haven't said no, it might come out at a later date. Perhaps if the response and the feedback to this is really positive, they will also launch it elsewhere, and they have with previous phones. So fingers crossed. I don't know what that was, that's not a cross finger. But right now at least, sadly, this won't be launching here in the UK or outside of China, which is a real bloody shame because I actually really want one. But what do you think of the new Honor Magic V2? If you could buy one, and maybe one day you will, would you be tempted? Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed the video, then a like and subscribe would be fantastic, and I'll see you next time right here on the Tech Chat.